I saw myself standing in the living room, staring back at me, but I was already asleep in my bed. Something about that moment didn't feel right, and a chill ran down my spine that I couldn't shake. Before we dive into this chilling story, make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and give this video a like. Drop a comment below if you've ever felt someone was watching you be, cause what you're about to hear will haunt you until the very end. It started on an ordinary Thursday evening. I had just finished a long day at work and was driving home along a quiet, suburban street. The sun had dipped behind the horizon, and the streetlights flickered on one by one, casting elongated shadows across the pavement. I remember feeling unusually tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that makes you wish you could just disappear into your bed and wake up when life was calmer. That's when I saw Hermione. At first, I thought it was someone playing a prank. She was walking down the sidewalk on the other side of the street, a mirror image of me in every conceivable way. Same height, same hair length, same hoodie and jeans combination I had chosen that morning. My mind raced, trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Could it be a stranger who coincidentally looked exactly like me? I shook my head, telling myself it had to be a trick of the light, a shadow, maybe even my imagination. I slowed the car and squinted through the windshield. The figure stopped mid-step, tilted her head slightly, and seemed to stare directly at me. My heart began to pound. There was something in the way she looked in eerie, unnatural stillness that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. She didn't wave or run, didn't react like a normal person would when noticed. She just stared. I blinked and looked away, gripping the steering wheel tightly. When I glanced back, she was gone. My mind tried to convince me it had been a reflection of the streetlight on my windshield, but deep down I knew it wasn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining her movements, the empty expression on her face, the way she seemed to know me without having met me. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant car horn, felt amplified, echoing through the house. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wishing it was morning. The next day, I tried to brush it off. Maybe I had been overtired, overworked, my mind playing tricks. But then the small, inexplicable events started to happen. At first, they were subtle. My keys were in tea, on the kitchen counter, where I always left them. My favorite coffee mug, the one with the chipped handle, was in the sink when I swore I had left it on the table. Clothes in my closet were slightly out of place. Nothing could have caused these shifts, except someone or something was following me. I confided in my best friend, hoping for some kind of reassurance. "You're imagining things," she said, her voice hesitant but steady. "Maybe stress is getting to you." I wanted to believe her, but a growing dread had taken root in my chest. A few nights later, it happened again. This time, I had been watching a movie alone in my apartment. The dim glow of the TV cast shadows across the walls, making the room feel colder than it should have been. I was halfway through a scene when I saw movement reflected in the window. I froze. Standing outside, framed by the faint light of the street lamp, was her, my own face, staring back at me through the glass. And this time, she smiled. Not a friendly, normal smile, but one that twisted at the edges, sharp and deliberate, like she knew a secret I couldn't even begin to imagine. I ran to the door, fumbling with the lock, but when I opened it, the sidewalk was empty. The air was cold, unnaturally cold for that time of year, and I could feel a creeping sensation across my skin, like invisible fingers brushing against me. I checked every corner of the street, every shadow under the trees, but she was gone, leaving only an oppressive silence. I stopped going out at night. I avoided mirrors whenever possible, but even inside my own apartment, I felt her presence. At first, there was just fleeting glimpses in the corners of my eyes of shadow where there shouldn't be one, a movement too quick to catch. Then the small sounds began. Footsteps pacing in the hallway when I was certain I was alone. The soft whisper of my name from the kitchen when I was in the bathroom. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined her standing at the foot of my bed, watching, waiting. I couldn't leave my apartment, couldn't focus at work, couldn't eat. I was losing myself to fear, but I couldn't explain it. No one would understand that the person following me wasn't real, or at least shouldn't be. And then came the night I finally saw her inside my home. I had been lying on the couch, trying to distract myself with a book. The room was quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your ears and makes your heartbeat deafening. I glanced up, expecting nothing, and there she was, sitting in my favorite chair. Same hoodie, same jeans, same expressionless face. And when she looked at me, I felt a shiver that went straight to my bones. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just existed. And in that existence was a cold, undeniable truth. She was me, but not me. And she wasn't going to leave. I backed away slowly, heart hammering, and she mirrored every step. I ran to the bedroom, slammed the door, locked it, and sank against it, trying to catch my breath. The last thing I remember before losing consciousness from sheer terror was hearing her soft, deliberate whisper, "You can't hide from yourself." That was the first encounter, but it would not be the last. The next morning, I woke up drenched in sweat, the memory of her whisper still echoing in my mind. "You can hide from yourself." The sunlight felt alien, harsh against my skin after the darkness of the night. I wanted to tell myself it had been a nightmare, that my exhaustion had conjured a terrifying illusion. But deep down, I knew better. Over the next few days, everything in my apartment began to feel wrong. The subtle signs that she had been there multiplied. Drawers left slightly ajar. Shoes misplaced. My laptop open to documents I hadn't touched. At first I thought maybe I had been sleepwalking, but I didn't move like that. I never did, and the feeling of being watched was constant, like an invisible weight pressing on my chest. It escalated when I started noticing her outside my window again. Always at night, always still, always staring. Sometimes she would mirror my movements exactly. If I sat down, she sat down. If I turned my head, she turned hers. At first, I tried confronting her through the glass. "Who are you?" I shouted, voice trembling, but she never answered. She only smiled, that cold, deliberate smile, and disappeared the moment I blinked. I stopped answering the door for anyone. Friends, delivery people, even the neighbor I knew for years became strangers I avoided. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow made my heart race. I became obsessed with catching her, figuring out what she wanted, why she was there. I started setting up cameras in my apartment, hoping to capture evidence of her presence. But no matter how many angles I tried, the footage always showed nothing. Empty rooms, empty hallways. I began questioning my own sanity. Then, one night, I heard a sound that froze me in place. A faint tapping from the kitchen, like someone running their fingernails across the counter. I had been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when the tapping began. It was deliberate, slow, almost rhythmic. My breath caught in my throat as I realized it matched the beat of my own heartbeat. I tried to convince myself it was my imagination. I counted the taps. 1, 2, 3, 4, until I could no longer deny it. The sound moved closer, down the hallway, toward my bedroom door. I could hear a faint shuffle, then the tap again, and then silence. My heart pounded so hard I was certain she could hear it. I mustered every ounce of courage and threw open the bedroom door. The hallway was empty. Nothing. The apartment was silent, except for the low hum of the refrigerator. My pulse began to slow, and I told myself to breathe, to calm down. That's when I saw it. The reflection in the hallway mirror. She was standing there, behind me. Or at least, it looked like her. He spun around, and the hallway was empty again. The mirror reflected only me, pale and trembling. But the feeling lingered, the unmistakable sensation that she had been inches away, watching, breathing the same air. Sleep became a battlefield. Every time I closed my eyes, she was there. Sometimes she would mimic my actions perfectly, almost like a silent echo of my own body. Other times, she would do something just slightly wrong, a tilt of the head, a crooked smile, a hand raised in a gesture I would never make end it. Would freeze me with horror. I started documenting everything in a journal, desperate to convince myself that I wasn't going crazy. I wrote down every sighting, every movement, every sound. Pages filled with the details of her presence, the subtle ways she mirrored me, the moments of dread that stole my breath. But no matter how many notes I made, no matter how logical I tried to be, the fear didn't dissipate. It grew. One night, I was in the bathroom, brushing my teeth, when I saw her behind me in the mirror. I froze mid-motion, toothpaste dripping from my mouth. She was standing there, silent, her eyes locked on mine. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I wanted to reach for her, to confront her, but I was paralyzed, rooted to the spot. Then she moved, slowly. One step toward me. I spun around, and she was gone. But when I looked back in the mirror, her face appeared in the corner, pressed against the glass, staring. I stumbled back, heart racing, and fell onto the cold tile floor. The room felt like it had shrunk around me, suffocating, closing in. My reflection in the mirror flickered, and for a brief moment, it was not me I saw, but her smiling, mocking, and impossibly calm. I left the apartment for a few hours, pacing the streets under the pale glow of the streetlights. I needed to clear my head, to shake the feeling that she was following me everywhere. But the truth was worse than I imagined. When I glanced into the reflective surface of a store window, I saw her walking a block behind me, matching my steps perfectly. I quickened my pace. She quickened hers. I ran, and so did she. By the time I returned home, I was exhausted, shaking, my chest tight with fear. I locked every door, every window, pulled the blinds, and sat in the dark living room, trying to convince myself that I was safe. But deep down, Ikaw Primera, the air felt heavier, charged with something I couldn't name. And I knew, somehow, she was already inside. Then came the first, physical evidence. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of a soft whisper, the same words from that first terrifying night. You can't hide from yourself. I opened my eyes to see her standing at the foot of my bed. My own face, but wrong. The eyes darker, more hollow. The skin paler, almost translucent. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. I tried to reach for the lamp, to light the room, but it wouldn't turn on. The darkness pressed in around me, and I felt the bed shift slightly, as if someone or something was already lying beside me. My heart raced so fast I thought it might burst. And then, before I could react, she was gone. The next morning, I found a note on my pillow. In handwriting identical to my own, it read, "You can't escape me. I am you." I don't know how she got in, or what she wants. I don't know if I am losing my mind or if I am witnessing something beyond comprehension. All I know is that she's here. She's patient, waiting, watching. And the more I try to ignore her, the closer she seems to get. The days blurred into nights, each one heavier than the last. I could no longer distinguish reality from shadow. Every reflective surface, mirrors, windows, even the glossy screen of my phone became a battlefield. I dreaded checking them, yet I couldn't resist. She was always there, lurking in the periphery, a twisted echo of myself. Then, one evening, the power went out. The apartment plunged into darkness, except for the faint glow of the streetlights outside. Silence filled the room, but it was a deceptive calm. I could feel her presence immediately. My stomach churned with dread, my muscles tense, every nerve screaming that something was about to happen. I grabbed a flashlight and turned it on, sweeping the beam across the room. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting and stretching, and then I saw her standing at the doorway of my bedroom, completely still. My heart stopped. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to run, but I was paralyzed. She didn't move. She didn't blink. She just stared, her gaze locked on mine. "Finally," I whispered. "What do you want from me?" She tilted her head slightly, the same unnerving gesture that had haunted me for weeks. Then, in a voice that was exactly like mine, but low, hollow, and trembling, she said, "You're not ready to see yourself." Before I could respond, she stepped forward and, for a moment, everything felt wrong. The air grew icy, my breath visible in the dark. The flashlight flickered and went out. Total darkness swallowed the room. I could hear her footsteps circling me, precise, deliberate, echoing unnaturally in the silence. My chest felt tight. Panic rose like a tidal wave. Then, the lights flickered back on, and she was gone. I rushed to check every room, every corner, every reflective surface. Empty. But the note was back on my pillow. This time, it was longer. I've always been here, watching, waiting. You cannot escape yourself. The closer you run, the closer I get. We are one. You cannot deny me. I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. I had no idea what to do. No way to fight something that was simultaneously me and not me. The psychological toll was overwhelming. Sleep became impossible. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of light felt like a prelude to another encounter. Then came the most terrifying moment yet. I was taking a shower, the warm water running over my skin, steam filling the small bathroom. I heard the faintest whisper through the mist. Look at me. My blood ran cold. I stepped out, grabbed a towel, and froze. Reflected in the fogged-up mirror was her face in my face, but wrong. The eyes were deeper, darker, and full of an emotion I couldn't place. A mix of anger, amusement, and cold detachment. I tried to wipe the fog away, but it only seemed to spread faster, revealing her even more clearly. Then the whisper came again. You can't run from what you are. I stumbled backward, slipping on the wet tiles, and when I finally looked up, she was gone, but a shadow lingered on the floor, stretching unnaturally, moving slightly as if alive. My hands shook uncontrollably. I felt like I was losing grip on reality, on my own identity. Over the next few days, I became hyper-aware of every reflection. Store windows, mirrors, even spoons and knives that caught the light, I would check them. And there she would sometimes be, watching. Always watching. And then, she started leaving signs small. Things only I would notice. A shoe turned slightly, a book out of place, a chair tilted at a strange angle. She wasn't just appearing anymore. She was interacting with my world, with me. One night, I woke up to the sound of whispering. I couldn't make out the words, but it came from every corner of the apartment. My pulse raced as I realized she was everywhere at once. Then, I saw her in the hallway mirror again. My reflection, her reflection. The line between us had vanished. She raised her hands slowly, and mine moved in perfect sync. I gasped, feeling a surge of cold fear I couldn't describe. I ran to the front door, throwing it open, desperate to escape, but the street outside was empty. I turned back to my apartment, hard hammering, and saw her standing there, at the doorway, perfectly still. I couldn't comprehend it. How could she appear and vanish at will? How could she exist in every reflection, yet never be caught? The final confrontation came unexpectedly. I was sitting on the couch, too exhausted to move, too terrified to sleep. I felt it before I saw it. A presence behind me, cold and heavy. I turned slowly, and she was there, inches from my face. Her eyes bore into mine, and in that moment, I realized the truth. She wasn't just a copy. She wasn't just a stalker. Ce was me. Everything I had suppressed, ignored, and feared in myself had manifested into something tangible, and she was hungry for recognition. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I could only stare, and then, slowly, she smiled, her lips curling into the same mocking, deliberate expression. You see now, she whispered. You can't escape who you are. And then she was gone. I don't know if she left, or if I finally accepted her presence in some twisted, subconscious way, but I know this. Every reflective surface I pass still makes me pause. Every shadow seems heavier than it should. And sometimes, when no one is around, I catch a glimpse of a reminder that some parts of ourselves are impossible to outrun. If you've ever felt watched, or glimpsed someone who shouldn't exist, maybe you understand what I mean. Sometimes, the scariest monsters aren't strangers in the dark. They're the shadows of ourselves, waiting to be acknowledged. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and leave a like. Drop a comment below telling us if you've ever experienced something unexplainable, because some encounters aren't just stories. They might be closer than you think.